Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. However this is finding you, I hope it's finding you doing very well. Pamela here. I wanted to come here to discuss today interchange fees. Now, some might think, well, interchange fees, this only really matters to business owners. It's not really true. First off, as a consumer, I think it's important for us to understand the costs associated with using the very debit and credit cards that we're using every day. And then as a business owner, you can understand where the cost of the charges that you're paying for your interchange fees for your merchant services, where the biggest chunk of it is going. So how are these fees decided and what's the parameters? That's something I'm going to start with. So Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover all have their parameters of what a debit card should cost, as well as what the credit card fees should cost for each of these. Debit cards, of course, are lesser, and credit cards, the more benefits, rewards, cashback, sky miles you get, the greater the cost of the interchange fee. The other thing to understand with this when it comes to the consumer is if you are tipping your server and you use a card of a debit or a credit card, that cost is costing the business even greater because they're then also paying an interchange fee for you to tip your server. And so something I always do suggest is if you can pay cash for your tips, it's highly suggested. Plus, your server also gets paid immediately versus waiting until payday to get that tip portion that the business then pays on their payday. But it definitely helps businesses not have to pay that interchange fee on top of also having to pay employer taxes on their tip fee. The other thing to understand is for a business owner, if you are interchange pricing plus, you're paying this cost depicted by the card issuing bank or credit union plus the modest markup. And that's why that pricing, if a business chooses to pay the cost, is the most cost effective, because they're literally paying whatever cost that is plus the modest markup, which is of course decided by your merchant provider, so that they are also staying in business and they can service your account and so forth. But that cost, the reason that there's a cost is because there's risks involved for a bank or credit union to process your payment. These financial institutions are incurring a risk. There's also just the cost of the processing of each card. That's a process in and of itself that they're incurring, and then the handling of that. So there's a payment for that. There's also the consideration of fraud. And so, all the different things that go into it, they are incurring a risk. And then also to understand too, e-commerce sites. So if you're paying for things through a website of any way, shape, or form, or through some kind of a link where the card is not present and you're not at the brick and mortar handing them your card, that's also a greater risk and therefore a greater cost of an interchange fee. The interchange fee is generally a percentage rate of the total of the purchase price plus a per transaction fee cost as well. And so this is important information because the more you know, the more you understand. If your merchant or if your favorite local business is raising their prices, you at least understand why. Maybe they're surcharging. Maybe they decide to do cash discounting or dual pricing because the costs are eating into their profit and they're having a hard time staying open. All of the surcharging options and pricing structures that are available, they increased incrementally, like a huge amount when COVID hit. And so ever since then, businesses are leaning more towards the surcharging and the dual pricing and everything else because they incurred a lot more cost. And a lot of that reason too is because they also incurred the cost at a greater extent because generally the card was not present. They had even more card not present transactions. And as you can imagine, when the card's not there, there is more fraud and risk. Just like during the time of COVID, all of the fraud. I mean, anytime there's a pandemic, unfortunately, the people that are doing those types of crimes come out of the woodwork even greater. And so, but the thing to understand on a business standpoint too is no matter what pricing structure you're choosing, interchange pricing plus, surcharging, dual pricing, cash discounting, or tiered pricing, that cost of the interchange fee is paid to the card issuing bank first before anyone else, before they're divvying it out. And your merchant provider is handling, processing that money, divvying out the money to the bank and to the whatever parties are involved, and then making sure it goes into your bank account and making sure you're serviced. And so, and generally having a customer service department. For instance, my partners, they have 24/7 customer service. That's obviously a cost in and of itself. And so the more you know, the more you understand. The more you understand, the more you can make better choices and decisions as a business as well as a consumer. And so I thought this was important information to have. Now, if I have not made any of this clear, because it is kind of some strange detail and not everybody takes this kind of insight and knows how to regurgitate it well, right? And that doesn't sink in correctly. I am so happy to help you. So please do me a favor, comment below if you have any questions as to what I'm speaking of, or feel free to email me if you'd rather do it private, and email me at pamelaismypartner@gmail.com. I'd be happy also to discuss any other payment processing questions that you may have. So you're welcome to shoot those my way. And, if it's aligned, I'll do another video of it. Or if you send me an email, I can just comment to you personally if that's your preference as well. So I hope this finds you well again. I hope this has been helpful. And I thank you for watching. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.